Okay, welcome to the Tamid class. Yes, this is Alexander the Great. What in the world are we going to be doing with this guy? Alexander the Great, one of the most famous emperors of all time. Well, you'll find out. Let's get straight to the Talmud over here. Just to recap, we learned a very, very long Mishnah, a lot of Mishnahs about the service of the morning service in the temple, what the actual sequence of the 13 Kohanim, what they did in terms of setting up the service. And this was all done in the morning. And now we're up to the Gemara, where the Gemara wants some clarification on certain aspects that we stated. So let's go one at a time. Says the Gemara like this: Tanya Yad v'Regel ka'kedis Yitzchak ben Avraham. They would tie the sacrifice by the hand and feet, like what happened by Yitzchak, the son of Abraham, by that very famous story of the Akedas Yitzchak. Okay, they would not tie the lamb. My time, what's the reason? There's a Amoraic debate for the reasoning why they wouldn't tie the lamb. So Chad Amar, one of them says the reason why they wouldn't, Mishum Bizayin Kachim, they don't want to disgrace the holy sacrifices. The Chad Amar, and one says Mishum Mahalech Goyim, because that would be following the ways of the Gentiles. And we have in Torah a commandment not to walk in the ways of the Gentiles, not to do stuff because the Gentiles are doing it, not to follow their fashions. Okay, so the Gemara says like this. This is an interesting way the Gemara is going to understand this debate. The Gemara asks these famous words that you find in the Talmud again and again. My binayu, what is the difference? Now the Gemara is not asking what's the difference, because the difference is they each gave a different opinion. They gave a different reason. But the Gemara says, if you're going to have an argument here in the Gemara, what is the practical difference? What's the practical difference? We don't waste time with this stuff. So what's the practical difference? If you're going to give me this reason, that reason, but there's absolutely no practical difference between them, so what's the argument? What's the practical difference? If you're giving me a reason behind this law, and you're giving me another reason behind this law, but the law is still the law, you must then tell me that the reason that each one is giving, their reason is because in another law, regarding another case, there would be a difference. Okay, so let's just play this out right now. My binayo, what's the difference between them? What's the practical difference? Ika binayo, this is the difference. Let's say that they would want to use the kavse, they want to use for the tying, bishiring. They use a silk rope. If you're using silk, that's then this will not be considered going in the ways of the Gentiles. Then it would not be considered a disgrace to the holy sacrifice. It would be considered going the ways of the Gentiles, but not a disgrace anymore, because using silk, inami, or another case, bahutz dahava, they're using a thread of gold, and thread of gold. Also, you have over here the same thing, that you would be considered going in the ways of the Gentiles, but it's not a degradation. So here you see they are each giving their own reason, and it would play out in different scenarios through using these different types of ways of tying. You see that they will diverge. There's a difference between them. Nan Hassam. Now we're going. The Mishnah teaches that they used the tables over there in the Beis Hamikdash. So we're now going to borrow a Mishnah from another Gemara, from another Talmud, another tractate about the tables in the Beis Hamikdash. Tanan Hassam, we learned over there. We learned in the tractate of Shkalim, Shalis Esher Shulchanes. There were 13 different tables. Hayu b'mikdash, we're in the Beis Hamikdash. 13 tables. Shmaina shel shaish. 8 tables made out of marble, base Amiklachayim, by the slaughter ground. Shalem over there, they used to wash out different pieces. Beis b'ma'arava shokevesh, 2 tables stood at the west side of the ramp up to the altar. Echad shel shaish, echad shel kesef. One of them was made out of marble, and one of them was made out of silver. Table was made out of silver. Al shel shaish nice to say on the marble that we used to place the limbs, but al shel kesef place sharis, and on the silver table they would place utensils, pitchers, cups, baskets, etc. You want to just see some imagery over here? Let's see if we can find some. Oh, there you go. You see the tables over here next to the ramp. Then you have over here tables next to the Nanasim. Then you also over here have inside the sanctuary. Here's some imagery of inside the sanctuary, facing the Kodesh HaKodashim, facing the Holy of Holies, that curtain. And you had over here the 3 vessels, the menorah, which is not accurate because the menorah was straight. Then you have the small mizbeach for the incense over here, golden. Then you have over here a table with a lot of racks on top for the bread. So says the Gemara, Uva ulam shnaim b'fnim, in the ulam, in the lobby. Let's go back to here to our map, right? In this lobby over here, inside the sanctuary, before you get to the actual heichal, before you actually get to the actual room, you had this lobby. Over here, you had 2 tables as well. One of them was silver, and one of them was pure gold. On the golden one, they would place the breads, the weekly bread that was baked, and Shabbos they would switch the 12 loaves of holy bread that went into the heichal and stayed there the entire week. They would place on the silver the bread going in, and they used the golden one for the breads going out. Why the silver going in and the golden going out? Because we have a rule. When it comes to holy things, you always must increase. You must go up. Therefore, the new fresh bread coming in, they placed it on the silver table as they were bringing it in. They used that table, and then when they were bringing out the original bread from the week before, now it's going to be eaten by the Kohanim after staying a week inside the heichal, inside the sanctuary, which, by the way, miraculously, it was always very fresh, even though it was a week sitting there. So when they come out, they place it on the golden table because you got to go up, and gold is much more precious than silver. The echad, and the last one, so here we have 12 tables we calculated. The last one, the echad shel zav, and one made out of gold, bifnim, on the inside, sh'olav lechem upon him tamid, that the lechem upon him, the bread, the holy bread, would stay on it throughout the week, and that is the image that we had over here, right over here, this golden table. Okay, so in the end, 13 different tables. Let me try to get you the image of, I could try to find it, of what the lechem upon him actually looked like. Ooh. No. I can't find it in just a minute. We'll have to do it a different time. No. Scrolling through the images here. It'd be fascinating to show you what this looked like. Okay. All right. It was called lechem upon him because it was made in such a way that it had many different faces to the bread. It was made in such a way that it had literally faces. Therefore, it's just called lechem upon him, which means the bread of panim, the bread of faces. Okay, 12 loaves of bread placed on this rack throughout the week, and every Shabbos they would switch it, and the Kohanim would eat it, the bread that was there throughout the week before. Oh, there we go. See this? Look at this bread. It was crafted in a very, very unique way. In these pans, you can't even imagine the shape of these pans. But it had like a bottom part, and then it went up on the each side, and then it went in on top with a space in the middle. Very, very unique bread, the way it was baked, the way they did it. But in any event, it was called lechem hapanim. Look at this, 6 and 6, 12 breads per week. Okay, let's continue. Let's hit the road. Michdi, the Gemara has a question. You tell me over here that about 9, it was 9 out of these 13 tables were made out of marble. Michdi, I have a question. We learned previously in this very tractate that there's a law. In a place of wealth, in the Beis Hamikdash, the most sophisticated, fancy building of its time, the most up-to-date, fancy building, every single thing was top shape, top 5-star. You're not supposed to have things that are not appropriate in terms of its status. You can't have poverty in a place of wealth. So Amai Abdi Shayish, why do you have some of the tables made out of marble? Neva de Kesa, Neva de Zav. Why don't you make them either from silver or from gold? Rav Chanina b'shem Rav Asi. Rav Chanina says in the name of Rav Asi, Rabbi Asi b'shem Rabbi Shmuel, by Rabbi Yitzchak, and Rabbi Asi in turn himself got this tradition in the name of Rabbi Shmuel, the son of Rabbi Yitzchak, because when it comes to metal, silver or gold, it gets very hot in the sun. And therefore, when we're dealing with meat and things like that, you don't want to place it on these tables that get very hot in the sun. So we're going to have to use marble. Okay, now the next part of the Mishnah. We had 2 different sacrifices, one in the morning, one in the afternoon, and each of them had a different place where the slaughtering happened. So and we learned that in the morning it was from in that row of rings where they used to do it. So they had many different rings, and in the morning the daily sacrifice was on the northern western ring, the second from the northwest, and in the afternoon was on the northern eastern ring, the second from the second ring as well. And now the question is, why do we have this difference that in the morning is going to be over here on the western side, and the afternoon is going to be on the eastern side? Can anyone guess? Well, I'll tell you, it has to do with the sun. The sun is in the morning on a certain side of the sky, and in the afternoon on the other side of the sky. So it says like this: what's the source for doing it specifically this way? That in the morning you would do the slaughtering on the northern western side, the second one from the south. Rav Chizda says, the Amar Karka says in the pasuk very famously, Shnayim L'Yayin. It says 2 per day. This is the pasuk teaching us that we should bring the daily sacrifice 2 per day. Keneged Hayayin, opposite the day. The day can also mean the sun. So what does it mean? Shnayim L'Yayin, 2 per day. Keneged Hayayin should be opposite the sun. Opposite the sun. Says the Gemara. Tani Nami Hachi. Yes, you say that is the source. The truth is, there's a brisa. There is a brisa which has the same, almost similar authoritation as the Mishnah. And it says over there, Hachi. It says over there like this: Shnayim L'Yayin Keneged Hayayin. 2 per day. It says in the pasuk. Why does it say those words? Keneged Hayayin, to teach us that you should be doing them opposite the sun. Ata Emer Neged Hayayin. So the Brisa asks the question: you want to tell me that these words in the Torah tell us that you have to slaughter it opposite the day? Maybe it's coming to tell us it's obligation of the day. Who says it means Neged the sun, opposite the sun. Maybe it means much more literal that every single day you have the chayv, the obligation to slaughter twice, to do sacrifices. Why are you stretching the interpretation to mean that yoy means the sun? Maybe it just means the day. Every single day, obligation for two. Says the Brisa. Do you know why? Because there's never allowed redundancy in the Torah. Whenever you have redundancy, whenever you have the same thing said twice, it's not being said twice just for the fun of it. And because I already have that knowledge, I already have a pasuk that tells us that twice a day you have the Tamid, then obviously when it says it the second time, it's coming to teach us something else. Kishu when it says in the pasuk, Esakev es echad taseh b'boker, Esakev es hasheni taseh ben harabayim. We read this pasuk, this sentence every single morning before Shachris, when it says that the first lamb should be in the morning, second lamb should be in the afternoon. We already know, we already have this statement in the Torah that you have twice, you have it being done twice. Therefore, ma'ani mekayim. What can we use the words? How do we fulfill the words? Shnayim layoim. It's redundancy. If I already tell you 1 in the morning, 1 in the afternoon, why have to tell me 2 per day? It's not 2 per day. Their interpretation here is 2, both of them, neged opposite the day, which means the sun. HaKetzad, how does this work opposite the sun? Because Eretz Yisrael, because the land of Israel is in the northern hemisphere, and therefore the sun traverses the sky to the south, right? The sun is going around the equator largely, right? Not exactly on the equator, but largely around the equator. If you're in the north, like us, the sun is always in the south of the sky. If you're in the south, the sun is always in the north of the sky. So Eretz Yisrael, the temple is in the northern hemisphere. So the sun is always the south. Therefore, it has to be towards if you want to be opposite the sun, you do it in the north side of the courtyard. Opposite the sun is in the south. Now, in the morning, Tamid shel shachar, when the sun is rising in the east, what's the opposite of the sun? South. What's the opposite of the sun? When the sun is in the east, it's the southeast. So the opposite of the sun is the northwest. In the evening, and in the afternoon hours, what's opposite the sun? Which is now in the southwest. The opposite of the sun is the northeast. Al Tabashniya on the second week. Okay, now we're getting to Alexander the Great. What happened was like this. We already learned this a little bit before, that Alexander the Great, and the transition is going to be clear in a second. But Alexander the Great was a great conqueror who conquered much of the civilized world at the time. One of the greatest conquerors of all history. And he plays a very pivotal role in Jewish history because he comes to the land of Israel. He comes to Eretz Yisrael. And unlike all the other places, he does not destroy it. He does not fight them. He does not conquer them. He's accepted willingly inside, as we learned the story before, very earlier on in this tractate, that Shimon HaTzadik, the great Shimon HaTzadik, the great Shimon, the righteous, who was the Kohen Gadol at the time, and also the political leader of the Jews, went out to greet him in the very holy vestments of the Kohen Gadol, in the majestic vestments of the Kohen Gadol, left Jerusalem and went out to greet him. And Alexander the Great descended from his horse, and he told his generals, "This man appears before me in a dream the night before every battle, and I'm always successful." And so he told Shimon HaTzadik, he said, I come with peace to the Jews. I do not want to destroy. And Shimon HaTzadik made a peace treaty with him, invited him in, to come in, and don't destroy the Jews. And he was very, very good to the Jews. So good was he that all Kohanim who had sons that year called their sons Alexander. And from then on, Alexander has become a Jewish name. It's not originally a Jewish name, but you have Alexander as a Jewish name till today from that story. Now, what happens is that Alexander the Great was fascinated with the sages, fascinated with the wisdom from the sages. And we have different accounts where Alexander the Great debated, discussed different ideas of natural law, of astrology, astronomy, of different elements, different scientific discussions with the sages, and many of these discussions are recorded in the Gemara, and one of those places are right here, right now. Okay, put on your seatbelt. This is going to be some really, really fascinating stuff. So says the Gemara, Asara Dvarim Shal Alexandros Mukdai. That's how he's known in the Gemara, Alexander's Mukdai, as we know him, Alexander of Macedon, Alexander the Great. So he asked 10 things as Ziknei HaNegev, from the elders, from the sages of the south. Amar lehan, he said to them, and this is the transition. We're just talking about the sun and the east and the west, etc. So one of the first question he asked them was about the east and the west. He asked them like this: Mina shamayim la'aretz rachik, or mimizrach la'mayret? What is a greater distance, from the earth to the heavens, or the expanse of the heavens from east to west? Amrulai, they said to him, mimizrach la'mayrev, from east to west is much greater. Teda, you should know, Sharecham Mizrach, I could prove this to you, because when the sun is in the east, Hakol Mistaklim Ba, you're able to gaze at it. Chama B'mayrav, when the sun is in the west, in the afternoon, Hakol Mistaklim Ba, you're still able to gaze at it. Chama B'Emser Kiyah, but at noontime, the sun is directly over you. Ein Hakol Mistaklim Ba, you cannot gaze at it, proving to us that there's a smaller distance from the earth to the heavens, where the sun, the orbit of the sun, because when it gets to the top of you, it's much closer. When it's in the east and west, it's much further, proving to you that the east and west are much more further expanse, and therefore you're able to gaze at the sun when the east and the west, and not when it's right on top of you. And the regular sages, not from the south, the sages say they actually disagreed with those sages from the south. They say like this: actually, they're exactly the same distance. Shenemar, and they prove it from a pasuk in Tehillim, from a verse in Tehillim. It says, that Hashem's kindness is as tall, is as high as the earth from the heavens, and Hashem's removal of our transgressions, he removes it from us, kirachik, like the distance, from east to west. So as they say, ichad minayim nafish, if one of them is much greater, if the distance of either one of them, from east to west across the sky, or from us, from earth to the sky, if one of them is greater, nichtav etarvayu, both of them, Hashem's kindness and Hashem's removal of transgressions, should be compared to the more greater one, to the more distant one. The fact that we compare it to both means they must be the same exact distance. And just poetically, we're comparing one to this and one to that. So how come when the sun is directly over in the sky, you can't gaze at it? It's very hard to gaze at it for a different reason, not because it's closer distance, but mishum, because the ka'ila dadi v'lai kasile miti. When it's right on top of you, there is no covering to the sun. When it's to the east or the west, there is a covering. There is something that covers it. What this exactly means, we have to go quickly. We can't really delve, but let's finish up this entire discussion because it's very fascinating. Alexander told them, continued to ask them another question. What was created first, the heavens or the earth? They answered him, the heavens were created first. Shenemar, because it says in the first pasuk of the Torah, in the beginning when God created, as a Shamayim, the heaven, the sky, and the earth. Obviously, the heavens, Shamayim, came first. Then he continued to question them. A third thing. what was created first, light or dark? Amrulai, they told him, Mil Sada, such a thing, Ein Lai Peser, there's no answer. There's no answer. Now pause. The Gemara asks like this: why don't they just answer him the real answer, which is that dark was created first? Dixiv, because of the next pasuk in the Torah. Va'aretz, and the land, was complete chaos. V'chayshech, and there was chayshech. And Hashem had to say v'hadar, and only afterwards, Hashem said, there should be light, and there was light, meaning light came after dark. Why didn't they answer that to him? Says the Gemara, Savri, they were thinking, Dilma they were afraid he's going to start asking them deeper questions, which they didn't want to get into. What's above the heavens? What's below the earth? What's before creation? What will happen after creation? These type of things they did not want to get into discussion with him. So they just stopped it right then and there. Wise people. They said, we don't know. We don't know. Says the Gemara, if so, if they didn't want to go so further in the questioning to all these philosophical questions, so how come they answered the first question? What was created first? The heavens and earth, and they answered heavens. So the Gemara says this was what they were thinking. Me'ikara, in the beginning, Savar Akrai Ba'amu. They thought he was just asking a random question, curious question, no problem. Because now he's going to be asking further. He started asking more, he started probing. They started saying that he was asking even more. Savri, they said, like, Nemale, let's just not answer him. Then maybe he's going to ask us these deeper, much deeper philosophical questions. What's above, what's below, what's before, and what's after. Okay, back to the discussion of Alexander with the sages. Amar Lahed, he said to the sages, Idin Mitkrai Chacham, who is considered a wise person? Amar Le said to him, Ezo Chacham Areya Es HaNeila. This is recorded in Pirkei Avos in the Ethics of Our Fathers. The person who is a Chacham, the person who's wise, the person who anticipates what's going to happen, who anticipates the consequences of his action. Amalan, he said to them, Gibber, who is considered a strong person. Amalan said to him, the truly strong person is the one who's able to contain his own desire. Amalan, he said to them, who's considered wealthy? Amalan, they said to him, Ezo Asher, who is considered wealthy? He who is happy with his lot, happy with his portion that he has. Amalan, he said to them, what should a person do that he should prolong life? He should live. Amalei yamisas. He should kill himself, quote unquote. He should basically figuratively kill himself, which means live a lot more moderately, live a lot more less indulgent. They asked, how does a person? What should a person do that would shorten his life? So they said, Yichyas Atzman. He should give himself more life, which means he should indulge himself in materialism more. That will shorten your life. Amar Lahan, he said to them, what should a person do socially that should be accepted amongst his peers? Amr, they said, Yisnei Malka V'Shiltan. He should despise the kings and the governments. You should stay away from these authorities, which you see that the what they were dealing with then. There's no such thing as democracy back then. There's no such thing as a governance by the people. So if you want to be accepted by people, and want to be accepted by your friends, don't be on the side of the government. Amar lahu, he answered them as the emperor. He answered them, my advice is actually better than your advice. You know what my advice is? You should actually be cozy up. You should actually be friends with the king and with the government. And just make sure to use out your connections to do favors for your friends. Don't stay away from the government. Actually be friends with them, but don't be corrupt and throw your friends under the bus. Actually help people, and that's how they'll love you. Amalahan, then he continued asking them, what's preferable for a human being? Yeah? Better that live in the on dry land or in the sea? What's a better condition for the human? They said to him, Beyabashta, you should, it's much more preferable to live on dry land. And I can prove this to you. Yama, all the sailors of the sea, like mitiv daitayo, their minds are never settled. They could be sailors for 40, 50 years, seasoned sailors. Their minds are never settled ad disalkilibash until they reach dry land. Amalani said to them, Yasir, who from amongst you is more smarter than the next? Amrullah, they told him, Kulana kechadashavim, we're all exactly the same wise. They call the Hakol Milsta Amislana. Every single thing you asked us thus far in this conversation, Bechat Pratanalach, we were able to answer it with one answer. So we're all equal. Amrulahan, Ma'adin is Lakabli. So they said to him, why is it that you, the Jewish people, why is it that you are against me and my culture, my way of life, which he was the forerunner of the Hellenistic way of life, which was eventually led to the war of Hanukkah. So he said, this is generations before, but he said, how come you don't accept my way of life? If we are the more prominent, we're superior, look how the Greek way of life is actually dominating the world. So they said, sometimes the Satan, sometimes the negativity wins. Doesn't mean we should be joining the party. Amrlan, he told them, he said, with your chutzpah that you just told me now, you're calling me the negativity, the Satan, I could decree that you be executed. Amrle, they told him back, yes, certainly, you have the authority. You can decree anything and get us killed. Yasi. But it's improper for a king to lie. And you told Shimon HaTzadik you would protect us. And now you're going to go back on your word. It's unbecoming for a king to do such a thing. Miyad, he was very appreciative of such an answer. He really liked the wisdom. So Miyad al-Bisha and Mevushin Argvan, he gave them purple robes and dressed them in purple garments. And he gave them golden chains around their necks as a token of appreciation and esteem. Listen to this. This is wild. So he told them, he said, I want to go and conquer the continent of Africa. They told him, like Matzis Azla. You're not going to be able to get there. Because the mountains of darkness are blocking you. So he told them, so you're telling me I can't go. If so, I'm going to ask you. So I'm asking now, how do I get over the mountains of darkness? Don't tell me there's a mountain of darkness you're not going to be able to pass. Give me the solution of how to get past it. They told him, you should get a Libyan donkeys, that they're able to walk in the darkness. They have X-ray, they have low, they have vision, the low, what's the word? They have they can see in the dark, they have a vision through the dark. But I see kibure the masni, and you go over these mountains. Bring with you an entire, very, very long rope, and tie it to the side of the mountain before you start trekking up. Because you could just go up with this donkey that could see through the darkness, and we'll go over the mountain to the other side, cross the dark mountains, and you'll have this rope you're unraveling as you go, tied to the foot of the mountain before. When you're going back, you have now a rope that you can use to go back over the mountain the other way and not get lost. You're gonna be able to go use the rope to find your way. He did exactly what he told him. And he went there, and he found he found a city dekuli nashi that is completely populated with only women. So he comes and he wants to wage war with them. And these women were very wise. They told him, If you kill us, they'll say, what a weakling that you just went and waged war and killed a woman. And if we win this battle and kill you, they say, opposite. They said, if we kill you, then they're going to say, you got killed by woman. And if you win us and kill us, what are they going to say? You're a king that kills women. So this battle is a lose-lose situation for you. And he said to them, okay, fine. Let's break bread. Let's be kind. Let's make a treaty. Bring me bread. So they brought to him a golden loaf of bread on a golden platter. He said, what's going on in this town? You guys eat gold? They said to him, you came here just for bread? You came because you came here to increase your wealth, right? You came here to increase your wealth, so we're giving you the golden bread. It's exactly what you wanted. It's what you really wanted. When he left, that city, he engraved on the gates the mechuzah of the city, me, Alexander the Great, I came to this town and I was a fool. I was a fool till I came to the kingdom of Africa, Nishai, and the woman over here, the office ate some in Nishai, and I gained a lot of wisdom and getting a lot of sense from the woman. So when he left, Yasivahu Mayana, he stopped by a river out there in Africa. He was eating some fish, which was in his hand. Bulda the Malcha, and he was washing off the salt. He sat down for some herring. He's washing off the salt in the river. And as he's doing that, as he's washing it, Naval Bahorecha, and a fragrance fell upon it. A very, very particular pleasant fragrance came upon the fish from the water. Amar Shmamina, Alexander said, I see from here, Hi Ina Gan Eden Asi, this must be the entrance to Gan Eden. Okay, so 8 o'clock, we're almost done. Some people say Maya, some people say he washed his face with the water. Some people say some people say something else happened. He waded through the water all the way to the entrance of Gan Eden. Ramakala, and he raised his voice and he said, Pischali, Bava, open the gates. I want to get in. So they called out to him. This is the gate of Hashem. Not everyone could come in. Who are you? He said to him, I'm also a king. I'm a very important person. Havali midi, give me just something. They sent him and they threw out to him an eyeball. Asya Takula the Hava. He tried to weigh this eyeball on a scale against all of the gold and silver that he had. And the eyeball was much more heavy. What is going on over here? You can find that in a second. I'm alone. He comes back to the Chacham, the sages, and he tells them, my high, what is going on over here? I have this eyeball that's outweighing all this gold and silver. They said, this is the eyeball of a human, a flesh and blood, flesh and blood, but like a sava and an eyeball of a human, the eyes of a human never get satisfied. Always wants more and more and more. So he told them, how can I stop this? So they said, go and cover up the eye with dust. And go and you'll see that it will stop outweighing all the gold and silver because it won't have any more lust. Diksiv, as it says in Mishlei, it says from Shlomo HaMelech, Shalv Avdon like Tishavna, that show the Gehenna and destruction are never satiated. The eyes of a person are never satiated unless he covers them up. Tanid V'Eliyahu. So Tanid V'Eliyahu, we learn it from the house, the school of Eliyahu taught the students of that school. Said Gehenna Lamala Min Arkia. Gehenna, where is it situated? It's higher than the heaven. Some people say It actually is on earth somewhere behind the mountains of darkness. Tana Rabbi Chia, we learn from Rabbi Chia, because we discussed night, we're going to say something about night. Anyone who delves in Torah during the night, Shvina Kenegdai, the divine presence is with him. Shenemar, as it says, Kumi Reini Balayla, get up and get up during the night and cry out. L'reish Ashmureish, and at the beginning of the Ashmuras, the beginning of the watches, which is referring to the time, three significant times of the night. Shivchi Kamayim Libeich, and pour out your heart like water. Neichach Hashem. Hashem is there with you. So if you're learning Torah at night and you're crying out to Hashem in prayer, Hashem is with you. Specifically at night is a good time. Amar Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah, Tamid Tamid Chacham have that special quality that they add peace in the world. Shenemar, as it says, it says all of your sons who are Lemudei Hashem, who are who are taught by Hashem, meaning they are Talmidei Chachamim, they are people who learn Torah. V'rav Shalom B'nayach, they increase, those children increase peace in the world. Learning Torah increases peace in the world. Okay. And for this we end our parak, and we are almost done our trip.